Big question ahead of the 2025 season is how do you evaluate head coach Brian Keefe? Another year of losing probably on the docket, but you want to see development. How should we evaluate head coach Brian Keefe? We're going to tell you today on Lockdown Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
DC family, you're locked on to the Washington Wizards. We're your part of our family. We think you make Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day. If you're an everydayer, thank you for being with us. If you're not already, subscribe, join the DC family. We'd love to have you be a part of what we're doing out here on Locked On Wizards. One of your co-hosts, Vince Kopeck, all seasons, 167 The Fan and the Team 980. And alongside, as always, the DC Sports content creating savant, that is Abdullah Ayubi, host of the DMV Sports Zone page. Game day for the Washington Commanders, AB. How are we feeling?
Cheese heads are going down tonight, man. We're eating them cheeses, man. We're rats tonight.
Let's go. So hopefully by the time when this comes out tomorrow morning, everyone will be celebrating a Victory Friday, and you'll start your day off with some Wizards content as well, because you've probably been up all night watching Jaden Daniels highlights. We hope. That's all we can hope for right now. But we got a lot to get into today because this is a big topic of conversation. A lot of dialogue I've seen from Wizards Nation is how should we evaluate Brian Keefe? And I think it's tough because you could make the argument for him as a head coach, kind of given the short end of the stick because the team has been tanking. The team has been in the situation that it has been because of the prior people that were in charge of the organization set everything up to be set back a couple of years. Now the Wizards obviously have orchestrated the full tear down, the full rebuild. And as a result, head coach Brian Keefe, he became the interim after Wes Unseld Jr. Was finally relieved of his duties from this team. And now that he's stuck around, we're going to really get to see another full season with him at the helm. This will be the second year that we get to see a full season of head coach Brian Keefe. It's going to be tough to make really decisions on what we're specifically looking at here, Abdullah. But if there's one thing I need to see is that the players truly do develop, because the one thing that you could make the argument for him being here right now is that he is tasked with development. He's supposed to be good for the development of this players going forward. So if guys don't create meaningful development here, then does that fall on the head coach?
And it's interesting because I'm a big fan of him and what Wes Unseld did. I mean, and the previous head coaches, you can see that Coach Keefe genuinely has that chemistry with the players that we have here. But you brought up development. Number one guy I'm looking at, BC. That's the guy, Bilal Coulibaly, the guy that we're talking about. We've been talking about this whole offseason, how he needs to develop his offensive game. And going to Coach Keefe in itself, for me, Ben, you have, first of all, competitive, the C word, capital C. Every game this year has to be competitive, all 82 games. You can't go off of last year and just getting blown out by good teams, mid teams. It was annoying. And a lot of people question why Wizards fans weren't at stands. Well, if your team's getting blown out by 20, 30 points tonight, it's hard for us to go there and support our local team. But I think the 20 point that you have, 20 games, you have to hit the 20 game stride when it comes to wins, because another year of sub 20 is just, it's unexcusable for the amount of talent this team has. On top of that, having an all-star potential player in Trey Johnson, it just wouldn't make sense to lose less than 20 games. Now, there's only so much you could do when it comes to coaching, but for me, another thing is he can't hold back players. Last year, I always mention, because I'm a big Tristan Vujovic fan, TV wasn't getting a lot of minutes. Guys like Rashawn Holmes was getting minutes over him. So that's another thing where we're already a bad team, and the cloud of keeping that top 8 pick, it's always going to be above us. Why not play our young guys? CJ McCollum, Chris Middleton, I love that they're vets on this team. They're going to contribute. They're going to essentially be traded sooner rather than later. But at the end of the day, it's all about the youth movement, and that's what I want to see. And honestly, I want to see this dude draw up plays too. Can you draw up plays for Trey Johnson? Can you draw up plays for Alex Sarr, inbound plays? Do stuff that we just, head coaches in Washington, we just haven't seen here in so long. So going back to what you were saying, development, I agree, is key, but also what he does throughout the season is crucial as well. Mid-game adjustments, halftime. Can we see that? That was lack of so many years with previous to Coach Keefe. What he did in OKC, I'm hoping that he can emulate it. Remember Kevin Durant, the DMV, said, I'm pretty sure he credited Coach Brian Keefe to how his success here in the NBA has translated because of him. So a lot of things to consider, but I still think he can be the man for the job.
One thing I want to see from head coach Brian Keefe, because this is something he is supposed to be tasked with doing, something that he preaches, something that the organization says they believe in him to do, is get the dudes to play defense for 82 games. The reason he got the job in the first place, when he took over as the interim in January of 2024, the team saw such great improvement in defensive rating, net rating, opponent three-point percentage went down over the remainder of that regular season. So Will Dawkins and Michael Winger, the current regime that's in place, they said, we'll give this guy a chance to instill some of these mentalities into our players. That is one thing they've preached. They want to be a defense-first team. I'm all for that. Defense is super important. Now, you're going to need some guys that can supplement and score the basketball really well, and hopefully we see some guys fall into place for that for Washington. But I don't give a damn if they can't score the basketball, if they are out there 110% effort defensively every night. You should never be an easy team to take down if you have guys that go all out on the defensive side of the ball. Trey Johnson, a guy that had some, some defensive tendencies at Texas. I'm not sure if that's because the usage was so high, but they showed him plays that he took off defensively. He made it a personal goal for himself to showcase to this Wizards organization in the workouts throughout the summer league that he can play defense. In the summer league overall, dudes were flying around to the basketball. The rotations were crisp. Guys were in good position. There was great hustle to go after the boards from the majority of the guys. That's something that's really good. That's going to translate to overall better basketball if you have guys that are out there giving a full effort defensively. Because there's one thing you can control in basketball. It's your effort defensively. You're not going to have the best night shooting every single night, especially given how young this team is. It's going to be tough to sustain really solid offensive play throughout the season. They're going to have nights where they're going to struggle. There's going to be nights where Trey Johnson struggles offensively. CJ McCollum struggles offensively. Alex Sarr struggles offensively. When that happens, what do you have to fall back on? It's your defense. It's what you give on that side of the basketball. And in turn, you can play well in transition. The Wizards, I think, actually played pretty well in transition at times last year when they were able to play good team defense. Can Brian Keefe get that for 82 games? I know it's not going to be perfect in all 82 games, but we can't have it lull the way it did for large portions of the season last year. It's got to be consistent. It's got to be almost every night for this team where guys are clicking and they're playing the type of defense that the organization preaches. If they can't do it consistently throughout the season, then I might see that there could be an issue falling back on coaching.
With guys like Keyshawn George, Alex Sarr, Bilal Coulibaly, they're just guys who can play defense. This team has to get better defensively, Ben. So many bottom five in so many defensive categories this past season. The only way to go is up from here. And you mentioned the quick tempo. That's what I love to see. That's what gives you the big advantage. When you're a young team, you want to play fast. And a lot of today's NBA, like a lot of people, half court set. These players want to do this and that, dribble, ISO. But if you can score off fast break and on top of that, you get that from turnovers, that's how you win games. And that's how you get that 18 win mark to 20, then 23, 25, 27. I'm hoping that they can hit the 25 mark this year. But my question, Ben, is there like a certain thing that you'll see that you're like, okay, maybe Coach Keefe isn't the guy? Because that leash that we're always talking about with him, are you giving him this whole year? Is there going to be a certain win mark by the All-Star break where if we don't hit, then it's like, we have to consider someone else?
Well, I don't think it's going to be about wins and losses for him. I think ultimately it's going to come down to maybe that being part of his coaching installation, his game plans. Maybe that can be part of it if they're losing games specifically because they believe the game plan that he's put in isn't right for them, or they're not putting in the right rotations. The right guys aren't playing. Then maybe that becomes an issue where you'd see the front office step in and say, we need to go in another direction. But I think given the situation they're in right now, and especially them having to keep a lottery pick next year, I don't see wins and losses being the thing that would dictate how they evaluate head coach Brian Keefe. I think they need to be better in terms of wins and losses, whether they do get to 20 to 25 wins or whatever, which I think would be an improvement. I'd be happy to see that. Overall, I'm not sure. I can't go into the mind of Will Dawkins. I know he likes to say they like to put their arm around guys and let them know where they're trying to be as an organization. I'm not sure what those conversations are like with Keith, how much they're trying to win, what they're specifically evaluating from him. But I'm sure head coach Brian Keefe knows what the expectations are from him night in, night out. So hopefully we just see overall the team have meaningful development from its players, whether it's from a team standpoint or from an individual standpoint.
I don't want to see like another 2 double-digit game losing streaks, man. That's just that's half of your losses right there. I'll bring it back again. The capital C competitive every game. I don't want to see another game where you're losing by 50 points at home against the Indiana Pacers. It's frustrating to see that again.
Yeah, that was the worst. You don't want to see that. It's terrible for team morale. Think about it. If you're on a team that has lost 15 games in a row for a second time that season, what keeps you going? What keeps you out there giving full effort? And a lot of that falls on the head coach. You have to find a way to get these guys to learn how to win. I think that's why these veterans are important. You have CJ McCollum and Middleton. Well, Middleton's obviously a guy that has championship pedigree. McCollum has been around the block and he's played plenty of winning basketball in his career. You need those guys to teach these players how to win. And I actually like to make the illusion, I'll take it a step further. The Washington Nationals are in such a bad spot right now. They got no dudes on that team that know how to win. You have a bunch of young players that have been stuck in an organization that's rebuilding, constantly losing. You need to learn how to win games. And the same thing applies to the NBA. That's why these veterans are going to be important. I expect a lot of them to actually play down the stretch because a lot of the young guys on this team need to see what it takes to win basketball games that are close and competitive late. And Brian Keefe needs to make sure that is a focal point for these guys as well.
100%. And I'm hoping that, again, for me, that ideally it would be nice to win obviously more games. You want to hit 20, 25 would be amazing, but it all goes back to the development, obviously, and the whole idea of keeping that top 8 pick, but making sure that you're competitive night in and night out.
Absolutely. One segment down. We got two more to go. Next, we're going to tackle what the plan should be for head coach Brian Keefe in the future. And then the third segment, be sure to stick around for that because Tim McMahon and Brian Windhorst, two hosts for ESPN, they had some pretty harsh words to say about Bilal Coulibaly and Alex Sarr, and I think we've got a response for it. We'll tackle these things next year on Locked On Wizards. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's their 401k, properties, or investments. And we don't have the full picture. You can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, and get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. One thing that surprised me about using Monarch is that I was able to identify that I wasn't saving as much as I thought. Monarch helped me notice inefficient investment allocation, and I discovered some forgotten 401ks I had from past jobs. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNBA. What should the plan be for head coach Brian Keefe in the future? I think a lot of Wizards fans have come to the expectation, the realization that head coach Brian Keefe is here for the time being. I don't think there's been too many people that have complained and really said they need to go in another direction right now because why would that make any sense? Why would you bring in a upper echelon who would want to come here for a team that pretty much made it clear that it was going to enter a rebuilding, a tanking phase essentially? So you needed a tank commander at the helm, and I'm not trying to knock Brian Keefe. I'm not trying to say they're able to tank because he sucks as a head coach. I don't think that's the case at all. I think he perfectly can, emulate the role that he wants to have here. He was instrumental in a lot of the development of the guys, like you said, KD in Oklahoma City. With that being the case, I think he has a role that he needs to play part of this rebuild for this Wizards team. But a couple of years from now, if they are in a spot where they are competitive down the road, do they go out there and find somebody else to really lead the troops, to get them over the hump? AB, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the reality of the NBA is once you're competitive, your coach isn't making, and that's what I was going to ask you, Ben, because when Mike Brown got fired, Tom Thibodeau, Michael Malone, a lot of these guys got fired, and people were just fans were like, okay, Coach Keefe, like you're next, right? But you're keeping him for now because again, this is the development stage. This is the early stages of what you're trying to build as a contender. The whole idea of Rome wasn't built in a day. But going back to your question, I definitely think once this team is competitive, if Coach Keefe is not pulling his workload, you have to pull the plug because again, there's only so many years that you have of a prime Trey Johnson, of a good years of Alex Sarr, Keyshawn George, all these young guys. We don't want wasted talent here in Washington. We have the talent, we're building it up, but making sure that you have the right guy leading this team. We've seen so many Hall of Fame coaches. Coaching does matter. They impact the game. And if you have those players but don't have that right coach, you're going to look back in a couple of years from now and saying, why don't we pull the plug sooner?
Yeah, and if you think about the position that these organizations were in that pulled the plug on the head coaching experiments, Malone, I don't know what was going on over there in Denver. That was a very odd situation. The GM gets fired as well, so that's a completely different story. But with Tom Thibodeau getting relieved of his duties from New York, I think that's something that a lot of people expected, and he was a good coach there. He got New York to a spot they hadn't been in such a long time. They just couldn't get over the hump, and what was the reason for that? Just overusing his players throughout the year. He refused to play the bench throughout the postseason. There were just little things that allowed for them not to get over the hump. And I think the Knicks ultimately made the right decision. They have to try something different. If you're that close to winning it all and you just can't do it with what you have in place, you got to make some kind of change. So I commend the Knicks, completely for making that decision. It was probably a tough one to make. I know they got a lot of love for Thibs, and he's a guy that was ultimately able to get a lot out of the players they had, but just couldn't get over the hump. Are we going to see something like that with Brian Keefe? Well, time is going to tell because they're not going to be in that kind of position for still a little bit of time. But if they get to the point where they are in the playoffs year in, year out, maybe 3 years from now, you find yourself as a 6th seed or maybe even a little bit better. If some things go your way, you make a big move that gets you another all-star caliber player on your team, or you hit in the draft next year, whatever it may be for this Wizards team. If you find yourself in that spot and you feel like as an organization, you truly are ready to go after it and win, and you don't feel like Brian Keefe can get you over the hump, can get you to the conference finals, then you got to make the move. You got to go out and find somebody that will. I don't know if that's going to take getting a hard ass coach that's going to get the most out of these players, because I'd make the argument right now you kind of need a hard ass to get on some of these guys to give you the full effort. We saw a completely different outlook from game one versus game two of the Summer League. And what happened after game one? Head coach Brian Keefe was there in Vegas. He sat down with Bob Carrington, with Alex Sarr, and I forget who else. I think Keyshawn George might have been part of the conversation as well. But all three of those guys from the 2024 rookie class, he sat down with those guys, and it was a very serious-looking conversation. And what happened after that? It looked like a completely different team. It was a complete 180 in the way they played in terms of effort. So maybe Keefe can be the guy like that. But when it comes down to it, if they are a playoff contender a couple years from now, I do think they go in another direction at some point. But Brian Keefe has a job to do now. Do not get that twisted. He's very important for what this organization wants to do. He's going to have to be good at what he needs to do.
Yeah, 100%. I'm hoping, Bennett, sooner rather than later that we make that playoff push because, again, a lot of Wizards fans are impatient, but we don't want to rush the process. We'll always go back to how Will Dawkins is not taking any shortcuts when it comes to this rebuild. They're doing their due diligence. So I think Coach Keefe can be that guy that can eventually bring us back to being relevant and being competitive. But like you mentioned, what the Knicks did, it's valid. I agree with you. If you're not getting over the hump, you have to make that move. And maybe moving on from Coach Keefe when this team's competitive is the right move.
It'll remain to be seen. We're still a little bit of time away from that, but as I mentioned, do not write off head coach Brian Keefe right now because he's got a job to do. And if you want this Wizards team to be good a couple years from now, you better damn hope that Brian Keefe can do exactly what he is tasked to do here in DC. So those national hosts on ESPN, and we were talking a little bit about it, clip Brian Windhorst and Tim McMahon discussing the Wizards' young French duo of Sarr and Koulibaly. Alex got hurt in the Eurobasket, and Bilal struggled a little bit. These two dudes, big time NBA guys, got a lot of respect for them. They have a lot of intelligent things to say, and they didn't have very kind words for Bilal and Sarr. So we're going to respond to that next here on Locked On Wizards. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however I like to bet. I can do player props, same-game parlays, or even jump in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game that much more exciting, whether I'm watching my Commanders play tonight or just keeping an eye on the fantasy lineup. The best way to do it is through FanDuel. Quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. Are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. ESPN's Brian Windhorst and Tim McMahon, both very, very prestigious NBA hosts. These guys, you can see them on your screen all the time. They've always got something to say about everyone, and it's kind of rare where you see the Wizards come up in some national conversations at this point. It's been a little while, since you see the Wizards get some national attention.
I'm
And
hoping it's optimistic, insight, right, Ben?
well, we got some, and you guessed it. It was a little bit negative. I'm going to play the audio for you right now. Here's what Windhorst and McMahon had to say about Bilal Coulibaly and Alex Sarr.
Alex Sarr, we'll say it's Alex Sarr, who was the number 2 overall pick last year after the All-Star break. 16 points, 6 rebounds, only shot 40% from the field. Okay, we mentioned Coulibaly. So Coulibaly, he only shot 42% for the French national team. Alex Sarr was on that team. I just don't think he was not in their rotation. He only played 2 games. I just don't think he's physically ready to play in that. I don't think it was more than
he's just such a bad offensive player right now. Honestly, both of them are just very bad offensive players. They both have really big time potential on the defensive end, but man, like, it's hard to play 2 guys who just are that dreadful offensively in a league that's better offensively than it's ever been.
Wow. Dreadful offensively, harshly put from Tim McMahon there. And, I think dreadful is a stretch to say for those guys. Bilal and Sarr, to say they're dreadful offensive players, I think is very extreme. And first of all, Sarr wasn't really in the rotation. He only played in 2 games because he was out with a calf injury for the last couple games. So clearly they had not kept up to date on that happening right there. But to say Alex Sarr, after only playing 1 season where his efficiency did increase as the season went on, he got better offensively, made over 100 threes. To say he's a dreadful offensive player, I just completely disagree with that. Bilal as well. I think Bilal has super high expectations for what he's supposed to be offensively, when from a sense, it's a little bit unfair in a way. And to say he's dreadful is a complete stretch. I think they could be better, both those guys. I think Sarr is going to be a lot better offensively this year. But I think it's way, way out of line for these guys to say that they're terrible offensive players. Like, I get the premise saying they have a lot of talent defensively and potential. Yeah, that's 100% right. Bilal, already one of the best perimeter defenders, overall defenders in the league. Sarr can protect the rim with the best of them in the association. And he makes the argument that you need guys that can score the basketball. Yeah, that's evident. Hopefully they're going to get some more scoring out of those guys, but I think they're going to supplement with other guys as well to score the basketball. Trey Johnson should be a really elite scorer for this team. Cam Whitmore, he's going to get the opportunity to be a primetime scorer for this team. With that being said, you can have the fallback on these guys defensively. You don't need to rely on them to be as great offensively as these 2 hope for it. I mean, AB, like, I feel like they're being a little too harsh on the guys.
Yeah, I guess it's just a common thing now where people love to hate on the Wizards and hating on these young guys who definitely can be cornerstone pieces of this franchise. It just, how do you not acknowledge the fact that Alex Sarr got better every single game from the summer league of his rookie year, where people calling him a freaking bust, to game 82? Like, if you saw that that game that he had against the Nuggets, 34 points, like, he was giving Nikola Jokic the work, which I know Nikola Jokic isn't an elite defender, but still, he showed up as a rookie when the lights were the brightest. And I just find it clearly disrespectful in some way because, again, like, you have to do your due diligence. You have to talk about the fact that he was dealing with a calf injury as well. So it is what it is. People love hitting on the Wizards. I'm hoping that these guys can prove them wrong. I think you can mention Bilal Coulibaly. There's so much expectations on this guy. And I think he can get over the hump, but it all goes back to him, his mechanics. Can he be aggressive? And Alex Sarr, I mean, defensively, he's only. I respect the fact that they acknowledge that they have really good defensive potential. We saw what Alex Sarr did, 8 blocks in the game, in the summer league game, breaking the record. But at the end of the day, these guys, they're just so young. Bilal is 21, Alex is 20. I mean, not everyone develops in year 1, and not even year 2, or maybe not even year 3. So the fact that you call it dreadful, to me, is just kind of concerning.
Yeah. It's definitely a stretch, and I think that's the expectation that we have come to know from national hosts. People don't cover the team every day for the Wizards. Yeah, these guys definitely know what they're talking about when it comes to the NBA, when it comes to basketball, but the Wizards are so under their radar for stuff that they're researching, stuff they're focused on, that I truly don't feel like they're the most informed when it comes to some of these takes. And here on Locked On Wizards, it's going to seem like we're overly positive a lot. I feel like a lot of you guys have commented saying that we seem like we're a lot more positive, like the team's PR tells us what to say. We don't talk to anybody with the team. I can tell you that. We've never been contacted from anyone with the team. We're credentialed with the team, but we don't work for the team, guys. We don't work for the team. They don't tell us what to say. They don't comment on what we say. I tell it to you. AB tells it to you exactly how he sees it. And the way I see it is calling them dreadful offensive players, I think is it's just
This is just another example, Ben, of the Athletic being Alex Sark not being the top 10. Like, it's just like, what are we doing here? Like, what the disrespect? I get this team is not relevant when it comes to winning, but there's so much potential in this team, and I'm hoping that these guys go out there and prove people wrong, because a couple of years from now, when some of these guys are really valuable pieces to this team, they're going to look back and say, oh, wow, they really went from here to now.
let us know in the comments. Do you think these comments were out of line? I think they definitely were. I think they were a bit misinformed on exactly what they were saying. For them to say that they need work offensively would be completely fine and understandable to me. That makes complete sense, and I 100% agree with that. To say they're dreadful and basically alluded to them never being great offensive players, never good offensive players, it's extreme. I think it's a little bit out of line. But let us know what you guys think for that, for sure.
Yeah, it's again, you gotta block out the noise. This young Wizards team, it's easy to listen. I mean, Alex Sark could have easily listened to the haters after that summer league performance that he had his stretch of the rookie year. At the end of the day, it's all about what you can do on the court, and people want to see this Wizards team. At least Wizards fans, they want to see this team win. And once you start winning, you'll get that national recognition. You'll start playing prime time games, and you'll get more all-star votes, and everything will come into play. It's kind of I know you guys hate the analogy because I love talking about them, but before Jaden Daniels, this Washington franchise it was a dumpster fire. Let's be real. And when he came along, people were watching him. The aura started coming in. His fans, it was like a snowball effect. And look where the team is now. So hey, maybe Trey Johnson could be that guy.
You need stars and you need to win games. That's the bottom line, and hopefully the Wizards can get to a point. Head coach Brian Keefe, his future, maybe we see how long it actually lasts here in DC, but he's got an important job to do, and that's develop these guys. So the overall takeaway for me is head coach Brian Keefe, although I don't think he'll be here maybe 4 years from now if this team is in a position where they're competing. I think he's gotten a very important job to do, and if they do eventually win a championship with someone else, he's going to be a big reason why, and there's going to be a lot of credit that will go around to what he and his staff there are able to do. So do not write those guys off yet. Give Brian Keefe a chance to do what he needs to do now. We got to live in the present. Think about the future, but live in the present at the same time. That's the way I look at it.
I like calling him Chief Keefe, Ben. I don't know if you approve.
That's fire. Chief Keefe. All right, that's the new nickname for the guy. You heard it here first. Chief Keefe. Let Chief Keefe cook. Let him do his thing with this team. That's the bottom line for today on Locked On Wizards. We thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. For your second, check out the Locked On NBA Top 100 because it is here right now, voted on by the Locked On Podcast Network, formed by experts that cover the teams and players every day. Find the full list on Locked On Sports Today or YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Wizards Nation, we'll talk to you next weekend. For my co-host, Abdullah, I'm Ben Stoker. We are out.